Greetings. Welcome back to Lantern Bridge. I want to kind of give an update of myself and maybe through my discoveries in the last month or so, maybe I can help a couple people who run across this video struggling with similar things. So just to update, a month or so ago, my son, me and my wife were here in Australia, and he was visiting his grandparents. His grandfather's quite sick in Wuhan, China. He went to China with my sister-in-law, his aunt. So there's quite a distance. A week after, he's supposed to be there for 2 months, and he was. But within the first week, we get a phone call in the, late at night, and it's a hospital, and we have to give permission for him to have an emergency appendectomy. His appendix was about to burst. He could have died. Thank God, or that he was caught. That this was caught very soon, and we had to make a decision: either give medicine and let him keep his appendix and see how it goes. But that was actually, there was a bit more risk to that. And in the end, it could come back again anytime, So we decided to go with the surgery. And I've recounted this in previous videos, but I understand, you may not have caught that. But so I'm on the video call with my son, who's in tears, or almost tears, and I don't know if you're a parent, but there's a helplessness, and I did my best to calm him down. Now these surgeries are common, but there is a risk, and he was afraid, and he was wishing that I was there to help comfort him. And, at that time, I reached down and, spiritually, religiously, after all my years of study of religion, myth, occultism, mysticism, in that moment, I felt I let my son down a bit, because I don't know, maybe I'm imagining he could sense that I was scared, that I had nothing to give him. Now he goes to a Christian school. We're in Australia, and to get good education, the choice is public or basically a Christian school. And he's actually quite a little religious boy. And he asked me questions. I've never told him what to believe. I give options. Some people believe these are stories to teach lessons. Some people think it literally happened, that this happened. The science looks like this. You decide. Some people believe in none of this. Some, there's Buddhists. I've never tried to make him, against Christianity or for it or for anything. He asks questions. I give him the best honest solutions that I can without imposing on him. And at this point, he wouldn't be imposed upon anyway because of how he is and how I've raised him. But in that moment, there was an existential void. I wanted a coping mechanism. I wanted to have an invisible force, which I've had before, tap me on the shoulder. It's going to be all right, Brad. This is important, so I'm here now for you. Whether it's some Hindu god, a Buddhist understanding, or Deva, or a Christian angel, a Nietzschean strong force to strengthen, whatever the hell, man. I didn't care. I needed something. I didn't get it. After all those years, I'm like, you know what, Brad? What do you really believe in? And there's no foundation. So a lot of my content recently, luckily I was able to speak with Nicholas Schreck, who's a Buddhist, he's a Buddhist and a Setian. Go check out his interview. And Mitch Horowitz, who is in the New Thought, but is also a Satanist, sort of I would say Nietzschean, LaVeyan type, And Horowitz said in that situation, he would pray to Satan. He's made a vow. Satan as that Nietzschean creative rebel force, okay? I still had nothing. I'm like, make a vow to Satan, make a vow to Jesus, become a Buddhist. In full disclosure, I've had multiple consultations, spiritual consultations with Nicholas Schreck. There have been things that have helped me, made me question, made me think. I highly recommend speaking with him and hiring him for, just talk, to learn about meditation, aspects of it. But that's not what this is all about here. I want to go back to the main problem I've had since that incident. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to find out. I'm going to narrow it. I'm going to really study. And, maybe I'll become a Buddhist or a Gnostic Christian. Well, I've been studying a lot. And I've been using ChatGPT. I cross-reference it just to get ideas. Okay, well, what are philosophers that are sort of in this mode of thought, in this one? And then I go from the ChatGPT and I study some of their work, even if it's just Wikipedia or an introduction to one of their books. And I'm gathering information. I'm studying with, studying Buddhism with a Buddhist. One of my mentors, friends, is a Catholic priest. And he had a great loss. He lost his wife to a horrible form of cancer. And hopefully I'll be able to speak with him soon on here. Let's get to the point. I had this void, this emptiness, this existential groundlessness, and I felt weak because of it. And I couldn't help my son because you're reaching out in the void and fudge, there's nothing there. You'll be fine, son. Oh, Jesus, we're all screwed. That's kind of what was happening, right? Now, this is a little Buddhistic in a way. Maybe, things all connect. But let's talk about void and God. And here, for me, the most important verse in the Bible is, Father, why have you forsaken me? In fact, it's maybe one of the most important lines in Western history, in Western thought. Why do I think that? Death of God, radical theology. Now, Christianity, as Zizek mentions, is the only way to get to true atheism, or here, I'll get to it. This is a little complex. Please stay with me. And I'm still learning. I'm not pretending to be a PhD in this or anything. I'm trying to find how do I deal with that void where my son might die and I have to go on. But let's just be honest with it. Father, why have you forsaken me? What does this mean? God became an atheist on the cross. God did die. And then there's people, I'm just trying to make sure people truly understand how radical and important this is. Because there'll be people who say, oh, gods die all the time and come back. And some in 3 days. Osiris, Dionysus, a bunch of Hindu gods, whatever. Wrong. That's superficial. Let me explain. Osiris is a god who died and came back. He's a god in terms of a facet of divinity, representing or being part of a natural cycle like corn, growing, dying, and coming back in the spring. He's still part of the system, the world that we're all familiar with. Oh, it's a cycle. It's one God, Dionysus. It's one God out of many. All the other gods and divinity, that's still going strong, right? Not so in Christianity. A God didn't die. Divinity itself, all of it collapsed. This is more radical than anything from Buddhism, anything from pagan, pre-Christian mythology, or Judaism. The big other in Lacanian speak, in Lacanian philosophy, how we measure ourselves against God. If that collapses, we have nothing left. We are in the void. That's the real. When we can't articulate it, when we can't articulate the aspects of the world beyond our language and beyond our othering, we define ourselves. We get our knowledge by what we're not. We're comparing, right? The big other is God. Now he dies. God himself becomes an atheist. God is gone. Not as a cycle that will return that we're familiar with. For the first time in history, divinity itself vanishes. And we face that void. So when my son was going into the operation, I had a hint of that void, and it threw me into a panic attack within weeks. I've been scrambling. I have found a philosopher where I'm starting to make some sense of this. And it's been helpful, and it's superficial, but I'm like, I think I'm finding something now. And it's not to fill that void and feel warm and fuzzy. That's for wusses. That's not That's not real hardcore Christianity of facing the death of God. That is falling back into the familiar. I can't emphasize enough how radical, when you really, what a shock it must have been to those disciples in real life, where they might have had hallucinations and saw freaking something. But I'll just say her name now. Simone Weil, a French philosopher, and her basic idea, and please correct me in the comments if you're a PhD or what, or you know more about this. I'm learning. My current understanding of Simone Weil is this. God is so big, so overwhelming, so unified and everything. It's beyond human comprehension. But if he is present in our world, it is so overwhelming, we wouldn't be able to exist as humans. Out of love, he withdraws, creating a lukana, a space, a void where humans can exist. The hiddenness of God is a necessity. Out of love, he had to leave. That's the void. The negative space that creates the shape, that's all we have of God, because he wants us to exist. That void I encountered that I was trying to fill. Buddhism, God, Jesus. That void is the God. That void is God in terms of how we can apprehend him or her or it. I'm just going to use the old school him. That fear, that hopelessness, that existential dread on the cross. God also, things are so bad in this world, even freaking God became an atheist. Why have you forsaken me, God? You don't exist, says God. Then what happened? We get an empty tomb, whatever. When the disciples encounter God again, they don't recognize him. Remember, they're taking a walk and they're with a stranger and they're talking about, this is after the crucifixion, they're talking about theology. Not until they sit with the stranger who has nothing and break bread with him, as Jesus did with the disciples for the communion, then they recognize God. This is Jesus. What lesson is that? There's another philosopher, Caputo. God is not a being. God is not a thing. God is an event. God is something that happens when? What? When we take care of the stranger, the foreigner, the weak. He's about how weak God is. God proves himself through weakness, through not being there, by not existing. Haven't you ever, somebody just helped you out of the blue that you didn't expect and want nothing in return, and you'll never see them again? Or maybe you were given that opportunity to help them, and you just do it out of your heart. In that interaction, in that event of breaking bread with the stranger, helping the stranger, the foreigner, the weak, with that might even hurt you, in that event, the void collapses and God does become present in our world in that limited sense through that type of love. So from what I see in the Gospels, God resurrects every time we have compassion and love, especially for strangers and the poor and the weak. Zizek, in Zizek's frame, God dies in terms of the metaphysical God dies and lives on through the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit are the Christians, the people. And following the teachings of Jesus in terms of that love. So, although they have, there's all these different varieties of these radical theologies, having experienced finally at age 50, I never experienced this because I never had a son. I love my wife, I love my mom, my brother, my father, my stepdad, my grandmother, my cousins. I'm sorry, but that love, as great as it is nothing compared to the love you have for your own child. You can't substitute it with your padoodle dog. You can't substitute it with drugs, sex, nothing. If you don't have a child, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, at least for me. I think unless there's something wrong with you, that kind of connection and love is pretty hard to beat. So until I had that ultimate love of my son in danger, I really never encountered that void. I've been down. I felt sorry for myself. I've seen existential, I've seen meaninglessness before. But not like this. So I'm just being open with everything in the last few weeks. I was really messed up, and for a month I took medication. No, I'm not giving any advice. I'm not saying anything about it, but that was not what I needed. That was not a help. I've stopped under medical guidance, and I feel so much better that I'm off those meds. And I did a little personal ritual of basically fuck this. And since then, things have been making sense, gelling. There's been coincidences that have helped me to reach these conclusions that I'm sharing with you today. So I know that's a lot to take in. That's where I am right now. If this helps you in any way or challenges, please comment and please subscribe. I think this channel, I think you're going to be challenged by it. And I want to be challenged by you. This is an in-process channel. I'm not coming with any agenda. I'm talking to Satanists, Buddhists, New Age, New Thought. I'm bringing up philosophy from Christianity, Christian mystics and philosophers to Tibetan Buddhism, Zen, and even occultism, Aleister Crowley. Please subscribe. A lot of people have enjoyed the interviews mainly, but only a fraction subscribed. So please subscribe, like, share. I hate it when people say, if you want this content, please like and share. No one, make your video. I'm going to make this regardless if you all leave. If this triples in the next month, all I'm going to do is, this is sort of my diary and my journey, and I'm just hoping if it connects to one person, that's fine. So this is where I'm at, and instead of trying to fill that void, I'm recognizing the void as God, a sign of God. And we can resurrect God. We can bring God out of that void back into our world through compassion and love, especially for the stranger. Don't be a stranger. Come back, subscribe, and leave your comments. I'd love to hear them. I greatly appreciate everybody that has joined and subscribed, and even a few of you have shared videos. So I've been getting a lot of great feedback. Stay tuned, and we'll keep things interesting. And I think in the next few videos, we'll be exploring these radical ideas of Christianity and death theology. Thank you.